All right. Well, this workshop, and I'm gonna go through this really quick here with you guys is something that I've seen, take somebody who had zero demos and they applied this to their, to the to the demos they were doing. So there's multiple aspects of this, right? There's the calls in the morning, which we're going to talk about what you need to do in the calls in the morning. Then there's the actual leapfrog, the alley-ooping and then the leapfrogging. And so I'm going to walk you guys through like how do we create a grand day from scratch, right? Like how do we go from zero demos or one demo to more demos. And like I mentioned, remember Sean, I don't think what was it, him or Victoria? One of them had zero demos and ended up with six for the day with over 3 grand. And I think Victoria had come in with one, ended up with five with over 2,400. And this is, what it broke down. It was like came in, used the stuff on the phones in the morning, was able to book. She was able to book 2 same-day appointments. She went to one, they were able to introduce her to a neighbor, and the neighbor was able to introduce them to a friend of theirs that booked for later that day, right? And so it kind of trickled from there. Sean booked in the morning, booked that demo, and so started with that one, and then he was like, hey, and he applied these principles, and he got like an immediate to a neighbor, then got one for later that day, and it just kept growing. And so I love Saturdays because, and you can apply this any time of the week, but Saturday specifically is one of the days where it has the most impact, Saturdays and Sundays, just because more people are home. Cool. That's it. More people are home. And so if they're home, they're usually like, sure, I can help out, right? And if they're not, they're not. But it's just a day where we find more people home. And so the first thing that like kind of the formula to this, the first step is on the phones in the morning, the urgency. Okay. And so when we're making calls in the morning, you're going through your phone approach. And when we go to ask for a time, this is where we say, Miss Susie, I know this is super last minute, but I'd be like, I am working so hard for my goal today, and I am still too short for the day. And I was wondering if there was any chance that you could squeeze me in last minute. I have an opening actually later this morning at 9:30 or 10:30 a.m. I wouldn't book anything before 10:30. You want to have this time. So I could do 10:30, or I have an opening later today at blank. Would either of those work? Right. And so making sure that we're prefacing of, hey, I know this is crazy last minute, or I know this is super short notice, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. The reason I was calling this early morning is I actually had not hit my goal for today. And I was wondering if there was any chance that you could squeeze me in on such short notice at blank time or blank time. Cool. And so that urgency and like, so one, always acknowledging, is prefacing the objection. You're always acknowledging what they could say, right? And so they could say like, oh, sweetie, it's super last minute, or oh, I have this. So like we know that. We know we're asking for something last minute. They might already have plans today. And so when we're asking, we're acknowledging that. And so we're saying, hey, Miss Susie, I know this is crazy last minute, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. Just because I've been working so hard and I haven't hit my goal for today. I was curious if there was any chance that you guys could squeeze me in last minute, today at blank or blank, right? If you have nothing, you're just offering your first two available times, like at 10:30 or with 12 o'clock, be possible. And I always offered, and so it depends if you're doing virtual, you can't do this. I mean, you can say, I'll be the highlight of your day. You can say that. It's a great phrase to say to people when you're booking demos. If you're doing it live, that's where I always offered. I'm like, I can help you make breakfast, or I can help you make lunch, I'm like, or breakfast is already made. I'll help you clean up, and they just kind of laugh. And I'm like, no, it really means a ton, and it helps me out so much towards my goal. So just making sure on the phones this morning where you're applying that. Cool. And that's a thing that you can always do if you're ever short for one for the day, whether somebody canceled, whether you hadn't gotten booked, whatever it may be. Just make it be like, Miss Susie, I know this is like really last minute to ask. Be like, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyway, or I ask anyway. I had someone that actually had to reschedule with me, and it set me back from my goal for today. And I was curious if there was any chance you might be able to squeeze me in. I'm still trying trying to book one, or I have time now because of the reschedule, or I have a little bit later, let's see here, at 8:15 that I can do, right? So make sure that we're asking for that. All right. So that's number one. The second thing is once we're on the demo, all right, once we're on the demo, we need to, at the end of the appointment, so we get your referrals. All right. And guys, don't forget, like, this is not going to work if you aren't sharing your goals and your excitement for what's happening. And not just for the summer, for what's happening right now. And so whether it's I'm actually in my fast start, my first 10 days, we have this huge contest, or oh, my company's in its version of the playoffs right now, and we're actually about to go into the second half. Like today's halftime, by the way. And so it's like the halftime showdown. So we're like my company is in its version of the playoffs. We're getting ready for our World Cup next month, right? And in order to, in order to hit my goal, whatever, what I've got to sell this or do this or this many appointments, but like in your demo, like, are they hearing this on the phone, right? And with the urgency in a contest, but then are you talking about the contest when you start the demo? And like, Miss Susie, this is why I'm working so hard. Like, we have this competition happening right now, next week, the best of the best, everyone's going to meet over in Margaritaville, in on Lake Montgomery or Lake Conroe. And we're going to have like the top leaders from all over the Heart of Texas division, the Gulf Coast division. And this is a place where I really want to make a name for myself. I really want to stand out. There's a special management breakout I really want to get invited to, and just to be able to learn more about opportunities, internships, things that can really help me for my future. And they're like, oh, wow, great, right? So like, are we tying them in the beginning on how this benefits you personally and professionally? Because then at the end, after you get your referrals, well, one, that's going to make it a lot easier to get sponsors, double sponsors, or more. All right. They're never going to, if you haven't heard me say this, I'll always say they will never give you 20, 30, 40, 50 leads if they're not tied into who you are, where you're going, and how this can help you personally and professionally. Got it? That's why they give a ton of recommendations. They don't know 30 people that are going to buy Cutco. All right. I've never ran into that person. Oh my gosh, that'd be exciting if I did. But that's like just not a reality. All right. So anyway, so making sure that once we get the referrals at the end, all right, that we're asking one, brainstorming as big as we can, because guys, it makes me sick to my stomach how many times when I ask for the top 3 to 5, like those top 3 to 5, some of the people in there were people that wouldn't have been on the stinking list if we hadn't kept brainstorming, And I'm like, really? In my head, but whatever. So brainstorm as big as we can, but then be like, hey, so Josh Bree, I'm working super hard to hit a really big goal. Be like, I'm curious, first off, if you were me and you were chasing after like a scholarship or a big sales goal, like who are the top 3 to 5 people from your list that you would see first? Like, who do you think would be the best prospects, or would really enjoy the products the most, right? Of all the families that you gave me here. And they'll be like, oh, definitely Miss Sandra, or and they'll tell you who. And yes, sometimes they're like, well, I don't know if I have five, but definitely these two I think would be really interested, right? And sometimes they pick out more. But are we asking for that so that we're targeting the top people? All right. And that's just a tip for helping you build a stronger business and getting you more of the right appointments. But once they have those, I usually like to ask them to call people. But here's the extra bonus is the leapfrog approach. And so I'm going to share my screen. I know those of you here in person can't see it. I'll share with you in a minute. So after finalizing the order and getting and qualifying your referrals, you can either add a peeler on the order. All right. So they have to purchase if you're going to put the peeler on their order for free, or you guys can buy vegetable peelers. We order them at bulk from the company. They're called CGA peelers, and they're customer generated appointment peelers. That's why it's called CGA. Cool. So we can order customer generated appointment peelers. And I have to check. It's like around $8 or $9. We can purchase them. So I have to look again to see where it is. But I'm like, hey, Miss Susie, I just want to thank you for all the time that you have given me today and for the 32 recommendations you gave me. But here's the bonus thing. I'm like, of all the people that you gave me, I'm like, who do you think might be home right now? I'm like, do you know anyone, like whether it's neighbors or like your sister or any close friends who might be available now? And sometimes they're like, oh, I'm not really sure. I'd have to check. That's the most common answer, right? Sometimes they're like, oh, I see their car. They're home, you know? And that's where, again, weekends is a little bit easier to get these immediate appointments. But I'm like, I have an opening. Like, don't be, this is this right here. If you have a gap right now, and if it's not now, you can say, I have a gap later today at 4. But I'm like, I have an opening right now, and I need to get 3 more appointments for today or 2 more appointments. You know, Sean's like, he was in a countdown to stay on track for my goal for this week. If you can help me set an appointment for today, it would help me out so much. I will buy you the $57 vegetable peeler for free. I'm like, who can we call first? Cool. And so tell them, like, I will buy you the $57 vegetable peeler for free. Again, you guys don't have to pay $57 for it. You can pay 8 or 9 bucks, but this is a really good investment into your business to get an immediate demo, and hopefully with one of their top people. But really, at this point, it's like, who do you know that might be home? Um, uh,
Give it to them like as the CGA,
uh-huh.
or could it just look like one of
Oh,
their
no,
gifts?
no. It's just a gift. You can just mark it off, or you have it. So you're just giving it to them as a gift. They don't need to know you got it for a fraction of the cost, right? It doesn't matter. Like for them, it's a $57 vegetable peeler that they would have had to pay for that they're getting as a gift. Um, I have a box I just ordered, so I've got 50 here. So yeah, I'm like, if you can help me set an appointment for today, I'm like, it would mean so much. I was like, I will buy you the $57 peeler for free. I'm like, who could we call first, right? Um, and and this is right here, and this is what we practiced, and Sean and Victoria did that day, and they were like, "Oh, let me check with my neighbor," right? And they went over. Jack, he was on a demo, and his demo bought, and it was actually one of his neighbors that he knew. They bought a vegetable peeler, but then he had a gap, and so anytime you have a gap, you want to ask this, okay? And say, Miss Susie, I'm like, I'm out. I'm like, if you're able to help me book an appointment right now, I'm like, I will buy you this peeler. I'm like, I'm trying to get 3 more for today, and I actually have an opening right now. I'm like, who do you know that might be home right now? And so Jack did that, and they were like, you know what? Let's check with this. Do you know these neighbors over there? He's like, no, I don't know them. He's like, oh, they love to cook. He's like, let's. He's like, I don't even have their number. Let's go over there. And so they walked Jack over, and they were like, this is Jack. He's a student at Florida National University. You know, he's an art major, working on really gaining some professional business experience. He's doing a really fun presentation on Cutco. Have you guys heard of Cutco? Okay, well, there's no obligation to purchase. He gets paid to do it, but I thought you guys would really enjoy it. Would you be willing to do an appointment with him? I just wanted to introduce you guys. And they were like, yeah, of course. When did you want to do it? And he was like, and the lady that he saw was like, can you do it now? He's really trying to hit a goal. And they were like, yeah, we're home. Yeah, come over. And she's like, all right, there you go. And they went over and he sold a homemaker on that demo. I remember this happened to me. I was at my best friend Amanja's girlfriend's mom's house, seeing my best friend's girlfriend's mother-in-law now. And I was doing a demo with her, and she actually had lost her job. She couldn't purchase, whatever we went through. I'm like, hey, no worries. I still had 2 openings for that day that I was trying to book. And so after we got leads, I asked her, I said, hey, by the way, I'm like, do you know anyone that might in the area that might be available now? And I had driven like an hour to like Palm Beach. And I was like, do you know anyone in the area that might be available now? I'm like, I'm trying to get 2 more appointments for today. I'm like, if you're able to help me get at least one more, I was like, I will buy you a piece of Cutco. And she was like, oh, she's like, you don't have to do that. I'm like, but I will. I was like, no, I'm like, I'm all about bribing my customers. I was like, no, it would have really helped me out. And she's like, let me see, she's like, let me call Bob. And Bob's not even on the list, by the way. And I was like, okay. I'm like, where's Bob? And she's like, oh, I didn't put him down. And I'm like, why? You just said, let's call Bob. And she's like, oh, he's just always so busy. He's the worst person to try to get a hold of. Like, and I was like, oh, what does he do? And she's like, oh, he's a doctor. He does a lot of Doctors Without Borders. So he's constantly like traveling in different countries. Like, I never know where he is. He hates my knives. He's always complaining about how I have crappy knives when he comes. He loves to cook. And I said, I'm like, we want to give him a try. She's like, what the heck? And so she calls him and she's like, oh my God, you picked up the phone. She's like, where in the world are you? And they're like saying hi to each other. And he happened to be home in Palm Beach. He's like, "Oh, I'm actually in the state. I'm stateside right now." He's like, "I'm heading." She's like, "Oh my gosh." She's like, "Where are you going right now?" And she's like, "Are you at the office or are you?" And he's like, "Actually, I'm on my way home from the office because the air conditioning repairman has to come or whatever, whatever." Like I'm hearing the whole conversation, and she goes, "No way." So you're like on the way to the house right now? How long are you going to be there? And he's like, "I don't know, probably an hour or so before I head back to the office." And she's like, "Is Janine there?" And he's like, "Yeah, she's in the studio." And she was an artist, his wife. And he's like, "Yeah, she's at the studio of the house. Why?" She goes, "Okay, so this is really random, but Amanda's best friend, Cathy, she's actually here and she's showing Kako. She gets paid to do it. You don't have to get anything, but she gets credit to do it. And it's kitchen knives, which I know you're gonna love because you always complain about mine. Any chance I can send her over to do a quick presentation? It'll really help her for a contest she's in." And he's like, "Yeah, sure. Have her come over right now." And she was like, "Okay, perfect." And she's like, pack your stuff. You gotta go." And she like draws me a map. You're gonna go around here because he like lived like around the corner. And so she like writes me the direction. She's like, "Okay, go here. Da, da. Trust me. They love to cook. Make sure Janine comes in, talk about how beautiful and how it's in the Art Institute. She's an artist. She loves pretty things." And I was like, "Okay." She's like, "Show them the white knives." Like she was like so excited for me. Y'all, I did a demo in like 20 minutes, signature set, flatware chest, and some other stuff. He actually ended up having a carving set. He like kept looking at the handle. He's like, "These look really familiar." And like he goes through like his drawer and he pulls out a box and it was like a gift box of Kako. And he's like, "Are these your?" He goes, "Oh," and Janine goes, "I'm not allowed to touch those." He goes, Someone, I don't know where we got this or someone gave it to us at our wedding or whatever." He's like, "But it's my favorite knife. I keep it in this box. No one's allowed to touch it but me." He's like, "Oh my gosh, these are my favorite knives. I'm so excited." And that's where he's like, "I'm sold. What's up? All right, what are we getting?" And it was literally like a 15-minute demo. I ended up being there for like 23 minutes. And then he left. Oh, that's a separate workshop. And I have a video, but how to do a quick demo. I actually have a recording actually going with the staff. But I went in, I'm like, chatting with them, chatting as I'm walking in. And then I was like, all right, so here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm working on, and then showed the sets, did the price comparison, and he was like, "Yeah, we'll do this set." I'm like, "All right, cool. Here's the prices. Do you want to pay in full or just put a deposit, try it out?" He's like, "No, we'll just pay for it." And then I was like, "Okay." Then I was like, "Well, hey, we have some other stuff and like check this out." And he looked at the flatware and I said, "Why don't you try this all out?" I was like, "It'd be like $650 or whatever to try everything out that you want right now, and I'll give you these gifts, and then try it out for 3 weeks, and then you can, if you like everything, keep it, call and pay it off, or you can send back whatever you want, and get your money back." And he was like, "All right, cool, let's do that." So boom, done. And then he had to go, and then his wife gave me referrals. But that was from, like if I didn't ask, I wouldn't have had that, right? And if she would have put him down on the list and I would have kept trying to get a hold of, I might have never gotten a hold of that guy. So one, don't forget that their friends are going to get a hold of them way faster than you. And that's why, and those who were at the meeting that we had before, I love, love, love alley oops. I always love them reaching their top 3 to 5 for me and just like, handing them to me or put them on speaker if I'm on, if we're on a Zoom. And I'm like, "Hi, Miss Susie." I'm like, "Thank you so much for being able to help me." I'm like, I said, and if I have that day, I'm like, "Hey, I actually am still trying to get 2 more for later this evening." I'm like, "Any chance you guys are available later today?" Because when they say yes, that they'll help and they have them on the phone, all you have to say is "thank you so much." Like you're literally just thanking them. Let them know where you're at for a goal. Be like, "I actually still have another appointment I'm trying to book for tomorrow or whatever. Any chance you guys are available during the day or here?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, we can do that." Or, "Oh no, sweetheart, we can't during that time." I'm like, "All right, no worries." I'm like, "Well," and if I'm still with the customer, if I have my schedule and we can figure it out, great. If not, I'm like, "Hey, I'll give you a shout as soon as I leave Miss Sandra's house here, and then we can figure out a time, that fits in both of our schedules. Sounds good?" And they're like, "Perfect." And so they're expecting my call. But if I can book them while I'm on the phone, that's better because again, that's one less thing I need to try to do, right? How about if when I call back, they're like, "Sister called, they're on a long call, they weren't able to pick up," and then it takes us several days to get back in touch versus I had them on the phone and they're like, "Yeah, come over later tonight at 6:30, no problem." Right. And I can just go over there. So just don't be afraid to ask, share your goals, be very vocal about it, even in the beginning. Say, hey, my goal is that you love me today, that we have so much fun, that you love me, that you want to introduce me to everybody. And I was like, and I am on a mission to get 3 more demos for today, Miss Susie. So hopefully you like me enough that if you know any nice neighbors or people that we might be able to, see if we can get anything else for today. I was like, and I will buy you some free Cutco. How does that sound? They're like, oh, okay. I'm like, but let's dive in. You got to like me and the product first. And then we're going to go, into the presentation. So, it works. I've seen this so many different times. And another thing is too, don't be afraid if you ever have someone that you go to their house or you have a reschedule to check with a neighbor, whether it's your neighbor or their neighbor. Louis Ozio went to a house and they weren't there. And he's like, oh my gosh, he's like knocking on the door. Like, I guess the customer had forgotten or something happened, and like they weren't there. And he's calling us, and it was like during a push. And he was like, what do I do? And Mary Lou was like, go knock on the neighbor's door, dude, and ask them if they've seen the neighbors. That you had a scholarship appointment with them, and then just ask them if they'd be able to help you. And so she like walked him through, and so Lewis was like, "Hi, my name's Lewis. I'm a student at Florida International. I had an appointment with your neighbors this morning at 9, and I was curious. I'm like, have you seen them around this morning?" And they reply no or whatever, and he was like, "Oh man." And she was like, just be a little bit disappointed, be like, oh man, I was really counting on this appointment. And she's like, well, be like, I don't know, be like, this is super random, and I don't know if you guys would be willing, but I actually had an appointment with them. I'm working towards a scholarship this summer. I get paid to show Cutco. There's no obligation to purchase. But anyway, I was counting on this morning. And so I don't know if you guys by chance are available and would be willing to help a college kid out. And that neighbor was like, sure, I can help you. And he ended up selling them a galley set, and got some great referrals. And so that's not everyone's comfort level, but it's like you can always, like, if you're sharing your goals and you're like, here's what I'm working on, here's this, do you think you might be willing? And never say the word interested. If they were interested, they would have called you. Okay. Willing. They might not be interested, but they might be willing to do a quick appointment. Cool. So make sure on the phone where urgency, you're always talking about your contest. So on the phone, like we have a huge contest we're in the middle of the playoffs or in my fast start, whatever it is. When you get into the demo, here's the contest I was telling you about on the phone, and you're sharing that with them and getting them enrolled and saying, hey, Miss Susie, I still need 2 more. Like if you need for the day, and that's what Sean did, right? It wasn't like you just do your demo and then ask for leads and then tell them later. It's like in the beginning, he's like, all right, so here's what I'm working on. He's like, I actually still need 2 more for the day. Be like, so hopefully you like me, you like the products, we have a blast. You introduce me to everyone you know. But if you know any nice friends or family or neighbors that might be home when we're done, be like, I'm still trying to I have a gap before my next appointment, and then I have 2 other spots later tonight. But first you need to like me in the products. So let's dive in, right? So share in the beginning with your goals. Then at the end, make sure when you ask for leads, if you have an opening for that day, and I mean, maybe you give it, I don't give it for another day, but it's like to help me get a same day appointment. Like I'll give them a peeler if they got me an appointment that I'm going to go hop to. So again, this is the verbiage of when you guys are talking to them, the things that you want to make sure to stress. If you didn't already screenshot it, they don't have to buy anything. All right. I get paid just for seeing them. There's no pressure, and it's a lot of fun. And you need to have fun with them. If you don't have fun with them, well, then it wasn't that fun. All right. So have a good time with your customers. I get closer to the scholarship just for seeing them, because we know when we see them, that's going to open more networks, more referrals, and continue building your business. It gets you closer and closer. So it's a byproduct. And telling them like, oh, if they ask you about the product, just tell them like, oh, Cutco, it's awesome. Whole kitchen stuff or whatever, right? But leave it at that. So for those who have a coaching sheet, you can use the coaching sheet, right? Which is the all right. And so this is the sheet that you can let them know like a little bit about me, like what to say, what not to say. And so I have a nice young student named blank, going to this, studying this. And so this is really good. And then again, that's why it says ask how you can win a free peeler, because you can do the peeler for 20 or 30 referrals. You can do the peeler for getting you an immediate appointment. You can do the peeler for helping you get in contact with their top 3 people. You can use it however the heck you need and want to, right? And like, it's not, the peeler is just a really good, inexpensive tool for us to use in our business. But if they purchased a lot, you can also just give them something free on their order. Like give them a pizza cutter, give them a fishing knife if they got you 5 appointments and then got you an immediate one, right? So, questions. I wanted to be done right by 9:30. So, any questions from you guys on this?
Mm.
Clear. Okay. Any questions? Do you like it? Use it. It works. All right. You can literally build a grande from scratch doing this because they're home. Again, Sean, it was like he booked the demo and then he ended up seeing one of their people right after one of theirs. And then that person got him one for later that evening. And then he was able to get another, he called some and got another one for later that afternoon. Then he went to one that he had booked from the morning. So the morning he had booked an immediate and then one for like later in the day. And then from that one, he had a little gap, but he made calls because he had gotten from that one two people, one for after that and one later in the evening. And then I don't know where he got the six, but I just remember like watching his day and I was like, oh, nice job, dude. And it's like, just ask. What's the worst they can say? Like, oh, no, honey. And I'm like, hey, no worries. Figured I'd ask. I'm just working so hard. By the way, that phrase was probably one of the phrases that like, I got most remarks from like Mr. Jones, and Mrs. Jones too, but a lot of Mr. Jones going like, good for you. He's like, I love seeing young people work hard, right? And so when you're like, hey, no worries, figured I'd ask. I just been working so hard. That's impressive. And so a lot of times young people find like, oh, I just don't want to be pushy, right? I don't want you to be pushy either, but you can be assertive, you can be confident, you can ask for what you want. And guess what? Successful people really appreciate that because that's something that the unsuccessful people might have trouble with. And so ask for what you want. Ask for, you can pretty much ask for anything with a smile. But make them laugh, have them be like, oh my gosh, this, and they're like, all right, I'm like, hey, figured I'd ask. Or always the another good phrase of like, hey, I figured I'm just gonna throw it out there just in case, right? But again, working so hard. Thank you guys so much for being a part of my journey, and people really, really appreciate that. So implement these things. Let's build in grand days from scratch. I'm gonna stop recording.